Welcome to the Church of Thomas. These are excerpts from Awakenings in an Age of Angels by Angel Eliza. This chapter is called Visions and Dreams. Jesus was laying in bed with his brothers Judas and Jose. He was about 7 when he had his first vision. This was his time to talk to his dad. He knew that he was different. Jesus did not know how different until this vision. He saw himself in a mirror of polished bronze. It was an image that looked just like him. The image brightened to the light of a noonday sun in the summer. He was surprised, on some level, that the brightness did not hurt his eyes. He saw himself becoming the light as it grew brighter. Then he felt another brightness next to him. The brightness put its hand on his shoulder, and love washed over him. He felt this love before. It was much like the sleeping dreams he had every night of his dad when they talked. This image looked almost exactly like him, more like him than the brother that lay snoring next to him now. As the vision faded, he realized some of the light and love still radiated in him. He knew then that he would never truly be alone. He remembered that face in his nightmares as a little kid. It stood next to him, cheering Jesus on, but not intervening. He remembered that the presence was a comfort at the time. One nightmare that he remembered was of falling. He was very scared. In the dream there had been a vicious laughter, as if the horror of falling was not enough to deal with. Someone wanted him to die. Someone wanted him to fall on the sharp rocks and be broken in body and spirit. This was in the form of feelings, but he was certain that was true. In the nightmare, a glowing angel scooped Jesus out of midair. He was always crying with fear and relief at this point. The tears filling his eyes blurred the face of the angel. He just had a feeling that everything would be right, no matter what happened. He was stiff and sore when he woke up from one of these dreams. He always felt filled with beautiful love that eased every pain. He now realized that the face in the nightmare looked like an adult version of himself. In addition, he did not feel like his dad. This vision did not feel like his dad, but closer somehow. The vision had revealed the same face. He laughed to himself. He had another twin besides his fraternal twin Judas. Another dream that had, as a kid, was just as scary as his nightmare. This nightmare was of him being chased. He had wings, but he could not fly. In his fight, he could not fly away from the monster. It looked like a rabid lion, but it was as big as an elephant. It wanted to devour him. It wanted to tear him limb from limb. The horror was intensified by the knowledge that it would do this not out of hunger, but out of the joy of torture. In the travels of his family, had in exile, had showed Jesus many sights. In the places of the pharaohs, Jesus had stared in fascination when a gazelle fell as a natural prey to a normal lion. This had never made him turn away in horror. It seemed right. The lion that chased him in the nightmare was not right. Each time that he had this dream, he woke up just before getting caught. The bed was always soaked in sweat. It had to be dragged out into the yard to be aired out and dried. Finally, in a repeat of this nightmare, he heard his dad's voice while he was trying to get away. His dad said, "Open your hands, I will help you. You are my sword of the tribe of Judah. Only to bear your sword, no one can harm you." Jesus threw open his hands, and a glowing sword fell into his grasp. He grasped the pommel with a two-handed grasp. The pommel burned like fire, but did not hurt him. In his flight, he turned and flew at the unnatural lion, his horrible attacker. The lion tried to veer away, but Jesus followed, cornered the lion, attempted to hide under a rock. Jesus kicked it. When it roared and turned, Jesus saw pure hatred in the lion's eyes. With one blow, he impaled the lion. Then, instead of bleeding, it burst into flame, burning to ashes as a sacrificial ram's body was consumed. It burned brightly with no wood around the body. The nightmare never returned. Jesus was 5 then. He got into a lot of trouble because of the dream battle with the lion. He thought he was invincible. This resulted in multiple sprained ankles and skinned knees. He wanted to fly while he was awake. Joseph's patience was sorely tested. It caused few real problems because Jesus just healed faster than the other kids. Jesus stopped when his dad told him that he was scaring his earthly parents. When Jesus was 10, he had another vision. This one was disturbing. There was a Torah in his hands. It was old, stained, cracked, and dirty from poor care. This made him very sad. As he unrolled it to read it, it crumbled to dust in his hands. He wept over the destruction. In the nightmare, it seemed days that he mourned the lost words of wisdom. On the morning of the 3rd day, the sun came up in the nightmare, like it was the first morning of the world that people had ever seen. It was so bright that Jesus laughed with joy, while everyone else around him was mourning. The Torah shielded their eyes. At first, the sun's rays struck the dirty, dead pile that had been the Torah. It became fresh parchment and burnished wood again. The writing on it was changed and different, but it felt right. The parchment was supple and bright and white. The ink was fresh and crisp without a run or stain to any words. It was workmanship that was better than any Torah that Jesus had ever seen before. Even the new Torah that had been dedicated at the town's temple did not look anywhere near as pure as this one did. Jesus picked it up. In picking it up, he knew that someday he would utter these new words with his own mouth. He would be the first to give them voice and his breath. He felt humbled before his dad as he at this awesome task lying ahead of him. After that, he listened to Joseph's lessons with half an ear, his other ear wide open and dedicated to hearing his dad's meanings behind the words Joseph was teaching. It was second nature to be able to listen to his dad and at least one other person at the same time by this time. He knew a person's potential and their motivations just by thinking about them or looking at them. Sometimes this got to be more than he could bear. His dad gave him a shield that no one could see. It made the pain, emotions, and motivations easier to endure. By the age of 12, he had built his own under the tutelage of his dad. His dad told him that it was important to build his own because when Jesus came to Jerusalem, there would be many more people to keep out of his head. Jesus had been easing pain, sorrow of other people most of his life. They never knew why, they just felt better when he was near. Joseph's bad joints felt better. They usually ached with every sunrise and worse with every weather change. Jesus would rub his father's wrist while secretly easing the pain. During one of these times of caring for Joseph, Joseph told Jesus and Judas where the family's savings were buried. Joseph knew that he was getting old and he was concerned that he might die without being able to share that information if he waited.